Alrighty everyone, welcome back. We are getting closer to March 1st of 2023, which by the way is the very first day of The Mandalorian Season 3's debut on Disney+, that by, of course, John and Dave. That's going to kickstart this new Star Wars universe in a sense, showing us how they will be treating the franchise in a different manner from this point on forward. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing that we do know about when it comes to everything related to all the upcoming shows, the full slate of the actual Disney Plus lineup, as well as the theatrical releases that Bob Iger's putting together right now, is that they are going to be making announcements separately, event by event. So we got Celebration this April, we got D23 later this year, and then rinse and repeat. They got Celebration again, most likely in 24, and then D23 again. They're just going to keep on adding more and more to the roadmap. Now, I've said this many of times that in order to really bring success to the table for this franchise, John and Dave they absolutely have to have multiple successful Star Wars TV shows in a row on at least a consistency of a minimum of 3 years to really kind of tell fans that, yeah, now it's officially back in action, Star Wars is thriving again. They have to make sure that it can do that. So that brings us to what Favreau recently had to say about many changes that are coming to the Skywalker Saga and why they are doing this and what it really means. So let's tap right into this, because Favreau has been very good with this lately. You know, he's been teasing the fans, hyping up the fans as of late, and just really getting fans ready for the future stuff. So with that being said and all, now that Favreau and Filoni are getting ready to make major adjustments to the franchise, they also have been teasing the fans recently about their goals. Now, in a recent interview that Favreau took part in, he went on to tease more about resetting the saga, the Skywalker Saga, and resetting many pieces of the lore by stating the following to the fans. John went on to say the following: "It's something that we are looking at over every single day, and how we can change the lore from the most recent films that were put out, so that we can actually make it our job easier to be more flexible with our decisions on what we want to happen in this post-return of the Jedi era. It's important to us that whatever reset approach that we have toward the sequel films, that we can find a middle point where it's not too little or too much of a change that we are doing, but just enough to change some of the character stories around, so that we can better expand our big universe that we are setting up. Now, it's going to be a tough task, but somebody's got to do it. A lot of this has to do with retelling the stories from Legends, and how we can make them canon and slip into the time period of the sequel trilogy films." So let me just stop right here for 1 second about what Jon Favreau is putting out there, is that basically them changing many elements of the sequel trilogy movies, it's giving John and Dave the ability to be very flexible with their characters, to be very open-minded about their characters, to actually have more freedom over their stories. And that's exactly why they are doing this. Now, specifically, they are going to be doing this in multiple methods, and he talks about these multiple quote-unquote methods in a second. One of which is going to be the World Between Worlds, which is a realm where you can change the past depending on what the actual occurrence is. So, for those of you that don't know, there are currently unwritten rules in the WBW. That's what I call the World Between Worlds. But in there's only certain things that you can change in the past. For example, in the upcoming Ahsoka series, there will be some kind of test that involves Ahsoka trying to change Anakin's fate, only to find out that she cannot. But there's other things where, you know, you have Ezra Bridger changing Ahsoka's fate because she's not meant to be the chosen one, Anakin is. And so, changing Anakin's fate would result in him not becoming the chosen one. So that's why the WBW has all these rules. It's actually guided by the Wills, who are godlike beings. That's going to become canon by John and Dave, that the gods are who control the World Between Worlds, and that they are a part of this. We're going to be learning more about that in 2024, by the way. Now, moving on to the next big thing here, this is where things get a little bit more intense of what Favreau has to say. So, he goes on to state, A lot of this has to do with retelling the stories from Legends and how we can make them change the events of the sequels. We will be using different methods to change the lore as well, that we think fans are going to deeply appreciate, and right now, we are taking big steps to do so. The Ahsoka series, I believe, is going to really surprise fans with how this is just one example of what we will be doing and how we will be doing all of it for fans. I am very thrilled to have Dave by my side working with me on all these changes and resets to the saga. That's only going to make the Mando era even better for the community. Now, when he actually talks about the Ahsoka series, like I said before, there is 100%, pretty much the moment where he's alluding to the Ahsoka series and the World Between Worlds. We know that the WBW is going to be a very big deal in both Ahsoka and Ahsoka Season 2, which, by the way, is now in the storyboarding process and being pitched to the Disney higher-ups, so that's looking good as well. So you gotta remember that when you're looking at all of these upcoming Star Wars shows, it's all about how Jon and Dave can create a linear story, but at the same exact time creating these branches where they can actually kind of take a little bit of a detour at times and do something completely brand new. And I like that. You know, they're creating, yes, a linear story that's going to head into the sequels, but it's also going to change the story of the sequels, is what Jon and Dave are trying to get at, especially Jon here. And I think that may very well make fans respect the sequel canon, maybe not the movies per se, but at least the canon, a little bit more. Just a little bit. I don't think it's going to fix anything 100%, I will be honest with you guys and real. Nothing's going to change a fan's mind about what happened with the sequel movies, but what can happen is the canon that they are going to change, basically, could very well make things a little bit more entertaining when watching those films. A little bit. So, anyways, this is a big deal because we all know that Disney's now in a scramble mode, right? They're in this damage control mode. Bob Iger's getting very desperate. You don't want somebody who's too desperate, though. That's when kind of, a lot of mistakes come out of the play. But if you're just desperate and you have this guided sense where you really know what you have to do for the fans, that's what Bob Iger's doing. He's got that kind of desperation in play. And that's kind of a healthy desperation, because he knows what's at stake now with the Star Wars franchise. He knows that he has to do better, and so he's now delivering it. And that's why he's allowing Jon and Dave to do whatever they have to do to make things work. And I like that. I do respect that. Even though I heavily criticize Bob Iger and I'm not a fan of the guy. Anyways, like I say, guys, there's a lot of great things coming out of this. I think that Jon and Dave are going to knock it out of the park with Mando 3. We know that Pedro Pascal teased that if you thought the cameos or the surprises in Mando Season 2 were exciting, just wait for 3. So that really kind of keeps you on the edge of everything, right? So overall, guys, fill me in below what you guys have to say about this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to